How's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. So 2024 was not the best year for comics, but not that bad compared to what we've been through in the past. Now, we all know the comic boom at its height in 2021, and then 2022, the later half it started dropping. 2023 was really, really bad. So how's 2024 in comparison to the other 2 years? Pretty good, but still dropping a little bit, still especially at the beginning of the year, dropping more in line of like 10%, maybe 15 or 20% from the previous year. So not that great, but we saw at the tail end of 2024 things kind of stabilizing, things going up slightly. So what does that lead to believe in 2025? So I compiled a list of the top 10 comic books that I think are good for long-term investing. What do I mean by long-term investing? I mean 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, not buying books that here today and then they just drop tomorrow. So a lot of times you'll see on these lists, a lot of people put on like more speculation books. Those are books it's like, oh, I think this character is going to hit. I think this, that, and all this kind of stuff. And you'll see them shoot straight up and then they'll just come right back down just as fast as they shot straight up. So I'm not going to do that. These are going to be more of characters or categories, but there will be specific books, but more characters and categories I think that are good to get into and they're good to hold long-term for comic book investing. Let's get into the video. All right, at number 10 is we got Venom. Amazing Spider-Man number 300 in a 9.8 in 2024. All of the whole year was averaging about 28.15. In 2019, that book was 1940, and then 10 years ago, it was 11.50. So I had a 5-year return of 45% and a 10-year return of 145%. If you look down, you'll see I put other returns just so we can compare to other possible investments, such as stocks. So you have the Dow, that's in 10 years is up 158%, S&P 500 up 194%, Amazon up 1,300%, Apple up about almost 800%, and real estate in general up about 36%. So I put that stuff just so you can compare, just to see the difference on what's going on. Now, Venom is a really good character. Also, he appears in Spider-Man. Spider-Man is probably one of the best books that you can get in the entire like run or series. They just have so many keys in there. People want Spider-Man more than any other comic book. Yes, they do. So we have the start of Todd McFarlane, and then we also have Venom. This book isn't going anywhere. Yes, it's going to fluctuate up and down with different movies, things like that. But long term, this would be a good book to get. But let's say you can't get first Venom, Spider-Man 300. Some other ones you can get is Amazing Spider-Man 316. We got this classic cover of Venom on top of Spider-Man. This has been cover swiped many, many times. A 9.8 on average was selling about 410, and now in a 10-year return, that is 241%. Or maybe you can get a Venom 3. That is another cover that people have swiped many times. It's at around, and a 9.8 is about $410. That's a 7-year return because it hasn't been out for 10 years, 180%. It's also the first appearance of Null. So if you can't get maybe this first appearance of Venom, you can get these other books, and there's a lot of other Venom keys to get, but these are just some examples, but I think Venom is a good character long term. Next is we got Deadpool. He first appeared in New Mutants number 98. In all 2024, a 9.8 was averaging about 1535. 5 years ago, that same 9.8 was 675, and 10 years ago it was about 650. So it had a 5-year return of 127% and a 10-year return of 136%. So Deadpool is a great, great character. Now, he's proven himself year after year after year, and I'm not even talking about the movies. Yes, the movies came out and obviously shot him up to the moon, but I'm not just talking about that. He has been in the zeitgeist for a very long time. He's had video games based on him. I think there is even an animated show based on him. He has been in other animated shows before, so he's a very popular character, even without the blockbusters that Ryan Reynolds has been putting out lately. But here's some other keys that you might want to get other than his first. You can get Wolverine number 88. A 9.8 is worth around $380. It has a 10-year return of 1,051%. It's the first time Wolverine and Deadpool have battled. You can also get Deadpool number 1, which had a value of $190 for a 9.8. That had a 10-year return of 135%. It's Deadpool's first solo book. So yes, Deadpool is going to be here for long term. So I guess get into these keys and you won't have any trouble long term. Number 8, we got Golden Age Batman. An example is Detective Comics number 31. In 2024, a 5.0 sold for $174,000. 5 years ago, that same 5.0 was $132,000, and 10 years ago, the same 5.0 was $87,000. This is a 5-year return of 32% and a 10-year return of 100%. Detective Comics, Batman comics, old Golden Age Batmans are great, great long-term investment. Yes, they are going to have a huge price tag attached to them, but they also don't fluctuate as much as the other keys. Like maybe a modern book will be up, down, all over time. Not as volatile. These are steady incline over time. You're not going to see as great a return, but they are great long-term investments. Just more steady, more classic books to get that will hold its value for a very, very long time without the volatility. Here's some other examples. If you can get yourself a Golden Age Joker covers, here's an example of Detective Comics 69. In a 4.5, it's roughly around $9,000. It's had a 10-year return of 165%. Any Batmans between issue 1 and 10 are great as well. Here's an example of Batman number 4 in a 3.0 is worth roughly around $4,100. It has had a 10-year return of 268%. Golden Age Batman, very good long term. If you came to me with a Golden Age collection of Batmans, trust me, any dealer, any person, any collector will just love it. It'll be great to have. So don't be afraid. It's more expensive, but don't be afraid to put some money into those Golden Age Batmans, especially if you can get some of those like pre-Robin Batmans. So that's like Detective 37 on down to 27. Any of those, doing fantastic. At number 7, we got Bronze Age Marvel number 1 keys. Here's an example of Ghost Rider number 1. A 9.8 in 2024 averaged about 10,600. In 2019, that same 9.8 was averaging about 3,750. And then in 2014, 10 years ago, it was 3,195. It had a 5-year return of 183% and a 10-year return of 232%. So during this time, the Bronze Age, there's a lot of like number 1 keys that are out there. And they have a lot of first appearances, a lot of maybe cameos, or just, you know, good classic books that turn in maybe more cover swipes, you know, cover homages later. So these are very, very good. It's also during this time that the Comics Code Authority, that little thing in the top right corner that you see in all comic books around this time, kind of loosens its laws a bit and allowed different things like the undead, you know, ninjas, werewolves, you know, things like that. And that's why you'll see a lot of these, like a Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night, coming out during this time. But these Bronze Age number 1s are very good. They're usually the start of a new character, new series, and those characters have gone on. Here's some other examples. Tomb of Dracula number 1, a 9.6 is currently worth around $14.45. It's had a 10-year return of 221%. It's the first appearance of Dracula in Marvel Comics. You can also get Man-Thing number 1, a 9.8 is currently valued about $18.53. It's had a 10-year return of 290%. It's the second appearance of Howard the Duck, but not the first appearance of Man-Thing. You can also get a Werewolf by Night number 1. A 9.6 has a value of $2,611 and it's had a 10-year return of 248%. It's the first solo series by Werewolf by Night, but not his first appearance, which was Spotlight number 2. Next, at number 6 is we got Silver Surfer. He first appeared in Fantastic Four number 48. In 2024, a 8.0 averaged about $35.50. 5 years ago, it was averaging around $33.50, and then 10 years ago, it was only $760. A 5-year return, not very much, to 6%, but a 10-year return of 367%. Silver Surfer, I think, is going to be a big breakout character. He's always been really good. People have always liked him very much, but I think this is going to be like his time to shine coming into this year and the following years. This is also a Fantastic Four issue number 48. You can also get 49 and 50. Those books in general are very sought after by collectors, very wanted. So don't be afraid to, if you get into it, you think it's going to drop down. Now, it did shoot up in 2021 and they've come down, but trust me, these are going to be hold up long term. Here's some other examples of some Silver Surfer books that you may want to get into if you maybe don't want a FF48 or can't afford one. You can get Silver Surfer number 1 in a 7.0. It's roughly around 1,063, and it's had a 10-year return of 206%. Its first solo series. Or maybe you get a Silver Surfer number 4. This is a classic cover, had low distribution. At a 7.0, it's valued around $990, and it's had a 10-year return of 248%. Now, there's other Silver Surfer books you can get. He redid the series, I believe, in the 80s, and that started with issue number 1 and ran for a very, very long time. You can get into that book. There's other Silver Surfer keys out there as well. At number 5, we got Golden Age Timely Comics. This example is a Captain America Comics number 32. In 2024, a 3.5 of this book was roughly around $3,000. In 2019, it was $2,580, and in 2014, 10 years ago, it was $1,016. It had a 5-year return of 16% and a 10-year return of 195%. Golden Age Timelies, which was Marvel back in the day. Marvel used to be called Timely, then it switched to Atlas, then it turned to Marvel Comics. So this was the name before that. So it has like Captain America, Submariner, Human Torch. So if you can get those timely comic books, especially the superhero ones, they'll do very well long term. People love that book. They're very, very rare, very hard to get, especially the earlier issues. Here's some examples. A Marvel Mystery Comics number 28 at a 5.5 is valued at $4,320. It's had a 10-year return of 158%, especially those war covers. If you can get any war cover during that time, World War II covers, those are fantastic. Anything war related, World War II related, people love those comic books. You can also get Submariner Comics number 32, and a 2.5 is valued at $21.60. It had an 80% return. So yes, I can't recommend this stuff enough. These Golden Age timely comics are very sought after by collectors. People love them. They will do great long term. At number 4, we got Wolverine. He first appeared in Hulk number 181 in his first full appearance. In 2024, a 9.8 was averaging $72,000. 5 years ago, it was averaging $33,560. And then 10 years ago, that same 9.8 was selling for about $12,761. That had a 5-year return of 115% and a 10-year return of 464%. Wolverine, great character. Wolverine makes it on all these lists all the time. Very, very popular character. Is only gaining in popularity, which is crazy, year after year after year. Hugh Jackman played him in Deadpool and Wolverine. He's probably going to appear again in some more Avengers stuff and then in the X-Men movies. He isn't going anywhere. He's probably the most popular X-Men and one of Marvel's comics' most popular characters of all time. Many comic book series are made from him. I would always encourage people to get the Hulk 181 because that is his first full appearance, but here's some other examples that you can get. You can get his first cameo appearance, which was in Hulk 180. An 8.0 is valued at $918, a 10-year return of $217. You can also get Giant Size X-Men number 1. It had second full appearance of Wolverine and the first new X-Men. So you get stuff like Storm, Nightcrawler, and Colossus and people like that. An 8.0 is valued at a little over $3,000. It's had a 10-year return of 312%. Or you can go and get a Wolverine Limited number 1. A 9A has a value of $630. It's had a 10-year return of 174%. It's Wolverine's first solo series. Now, I might be putting 9As or different grades on here all over. You don't have to get the exact grade I mentioned. It could just be around that grade or close to that grade. A lot of times I'll just put a 9A, maybe I'll put a 7.0. You don't have to get those. Just get ones that fit within your budget. But these are just good books is what I'm showing you. At number 3, we got DC Silver Age Horror. Here's an example of a House of Mysteries, number 174. This is the first start of that DC horror stuff. In 2024, an 8.0 was averaging $336. In 2019, that same one was averaging $225. And then 10 years ago, it was $123. Had a 5-year return of 49% and a 10-year return of 173%. These DC horror comic books, they are going up in value quite a bit. People are really digging them. They're really on them. They're very cool. It's mostly it's not like first appearance of characters. That's not what it is about these books. It's more of the artist, which is great. So a different artist like Bernie Wrightson will do it, Neil Adams or something like that. That'll make the comic book go higher in value. Or the cover is just really cool in general. These books are a sleeper hit for sure. Definitely get into them. Get some try to get at least an 8.0 or above in these books because right now they're not too expensive. So you want to spend like a little bit of money, a couple $100 getting these, but they are great sleeper hits for sure. If you can get yourself a Wrightson or an Adams, here's an example of a House of Secrets number 87. A 9A is currently valued at $700 at a 10-year return of $137. Here's a Wrightson cover of Secrets of the Haunted House number 5. A 9.2 is currently valued at $450 and it's had a 10-year return of 922%. At number 2, we got Neil Adams' Batman, especially the Silver Age. Batman number 227 is an example. And a 9.0 in 2024 is averaging about $3,090. 5 years ago is $1,150 and 10 years ago is $550. It's had a 5-year return of 169%, a 10-year return of 457%. I put these on lists all the time. Neil Adams, Silver Age, Batman. They are great. You really can't go wrong with which one to pick. Some are more expensive than the others. Like this 227 is going to be more expensive than probably the other ones. But just get yourselves a Neil Adams Batman, especially the covers. Got to get the covers. and they will do good. It's always nice to see when certain artists do certain covers, and that's what brings up the value, not necessarily a first appearance or an origin or second appearance or a cameo of a character. These are great books, but they become iconic, and that's the thing. When you have an iconic cover, they get cover swiped by other artists. Like, they do homages to them, and so you'll see them. Even this 227 was originally, Detective Comics way back in the day, number 31. This was a cover swipe. So it gets cover swiped. And so more cover swipes by newer artists keep, taking them and kind of redoing their own interpretation of it, gets into the mindset of different collectors out there, different comic readers, and they say, oh, that's a cool cover. Oh, did you know it actually belonged to this comic way back then? They're like, oh, I'd like the original of that one. So get these. There's some more examples. Batman 251, great Neil Adams Joker cover. A 9.8, it's currently valued about $39,600. It's had a 10-year return of 692%. Or you can get Batman 232, first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. A 9.4 has a value of $1782, a 10-year return of 116%. Or here's another one, first appearance of the League of Assassins, Detective Comics 405. A 9.6 has a value of $2458 with a 10-year return of 181%. And now it's time for the number one. This category is by far and the best. You really can't go wrong with this category. It's especially, there's so many people that like it, so many people into it. And what am I talking about? I am talking about Amazing Spider-Man. More specifically, let's talk about the Silver Age Spider-Man. This is an example of Amazing Spider-Man 33. In 2024, a 9.6 averaged 2,700. And 5 years ago it was 1,430, and 10 years ago it was 1,059. Had a 5-year return of 88% and a 10-year return of 155%. You really can't go wrong. You can pick pretty much any book. This is not like a key in terms of a first appearance, but you can just pick just any random Silver Age Spider-Man comic book, and these will be great long-term investment. Yes, some are going to go higher than others, some are a little lower than others, but long-term, these are great. You can pretty much get it close to any grade too. Just pick up the book, get it, graded by CGC, and it will just be a great long-term investment. Especially, I run a consignment center, and so I get people's collections all the time. And when I see someone have like a nice run of Silver Age Spider-Man, I'm like, yes, these will do good. Spider-Man is in such demand that these will always get good prices. There's always a want for it. You don't have trouble of like buying the book and sitting on it for years and years trying to find that right buyer. These books will always sell fast and for a good price. Here's some other examples. Here's an example of Spider-Man 55. Like I said, not even a key. A 9.6 valued at $1925 has had a 10-year return of 345%. Not a key. This is not a key by any means. You can also get this Spider-Man 66. Again, not a key. Cool cover though. A 9.2 sells for about $430. That's up 130%. And of course, the Silver Age Spider-Man keys. This is an example of the first Lizard and Spider-Man number 6, 4.0, current value, 907, 10-year return of 159%. Like I said, it doesn't really matter which one you get. Just get a Silver Age Spider-Man key. Make sure it's in a decent grade, and that's all you got to do. And they're just really cool covers in general. That is it. That is my top 10 comic books or comic book categories that you should be eyeing this year in 2025 for the best long-term investment. Have a great day.